Good morning, I'm Dave Christie with your LaRouche Organization Daily Update for Tuesday, November 25th. Now, as Hell Gets Up LaRouche said in a discussion with colleagues and associates yesterday, she likened the world situation to a vast forest with multiple fires, which when one is extinguished, others break out. Now, you can all go through the list of various hot spots, these fires that are breaking out around the world, whether that be in Southwest Asia, where the ongoing crisis surrounding Israel's continuing attacks, even though there's a ceasefire in place concerning Gaza, the recent flaming up of tensions in Lebanon and the attacks on Hezbollah leaders and so on. And of course, we have the situation in Venezuela. All of these remain the kind of global hotspots, but the big ones, of course, are the Ukraine situation, where we have the negotiations underway. Trump has called that the Ukrainians accept the proposals put forward by the United States, supposedly in consultation with the Russians. I think just to be clear on this, this should just be seen as a working document, and that the attempt is, would appear to the degree that Trump is committed to the peace, is to get Ukraine to the table and to accept the realities on the ground and move this towards a peaceful resolution. So he's called for Ukraine to accept this by Thursday. That's Thanksgiving in the United States. That's still involved and underway. I'll come to some of the elements of that in a moment, but then, of course, as far as some of the other fires breaking out, we have the situation in Japan, where the prime minister there has recently made very bellicose statements surrounding Taiwan, and that Japan is saying they would be willing to host certain missile systems capable of striking the Chinese mainland in the event of such a breakout over Taiwan, let alone the extremely insane statements that perhaps Japan will be pursuing a policy of gaining access to nuclear weapons or developing nuclear weapons systems. So in that context, I just want to start with what happened yesterday between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, where they held a phone call and likely discussed many things. But one of the things that did come out in the readouts from the Chinese side was the issue of World War II, certainly likely a reference to the unfolding dynamic, which a new world war could break out. But in the course of in the readout, the Chinese stated that the United States and China did, of course, collaborate and were involved in ending the fascist threat during World War II. So I'll just read what China's report said concerning the call. Xi Jinping clarified China's principled stance on the Taiwan issue, emphasizing that Taiwan's return to China is an important component of the post-war international order, noting that China and the United States fought side by side against fascism and militarism and should now work together to safeguard the achievements of the victory in World War II. So apparently Trump did express the recognition that China played what he called a crucial role during World War II, and said that the U.S. understands the importance of the Taiwan issue for China. So that's important, and important in the light of the rise of the militarism that we see in Japan, and of course the literal revival of Nazism that we see inside of Ukraine, with the followers of Bandera and so forth at the spear point of the NATO proxy war against Russia. So now I think the other part of the dialogue that likely happened yesterday, or that it's been a part of the U.S.-China relations, is, of course, the unfolding financial collapse, and particularly that around the AI bubble, the artificial intelligence bubble. As China has made clear, they've made the commitment over the course of decades to develop the supply chains around the rare earth materials required for the U.S. tech sector globally, but that's been one of the key cards that China has held in the trade war dynamic and so forth. And so I just want to just cite a couple of things that we have around that, because I think that's important to recognize that the AI bubble is indeed one of the spear points of the impending financial collapse of the transatlantic system. That is the city of London and Wall Street and their associates within the European banking centers, who have done nothing but roll over one bubble into the next. Now, briefly, I just want to say, if you haven't followed what Harley Schlanger has been putting out on Epstein's role in these resets, where one bubble blows and the next is inflated, and how he has covered Epstein's role in being one of the figures involved in, bringing all the various world leaders together of industry, of banking and political leadership, bringing them together for these resets of the transatlantic financial system. If you haven't read or seen some of the presentations that Harley has done on this matter, I want to encourage you to do that. Now, as Harley has indicated, he's going to have more coming out on Epstein's role in the artificial intelligence. He's already cited the role of Epstein's relationship to Ehud Barak. Others have written on his introduction of Ehud Barak to Ariana de Rothschild concerning the Israeli cyber program. Anyway, there will be more that comes out on this, but I think that on the AI front, it should just be noted that yesterday Donald Trump signed an executive order to launch a new federal AI initiative. He calls it the Genesis Mission, aimed at accelerating scientific discovery, strengthening national security. Now, as we know, AI can be used for the good and it can be used for the bad. Obviously, the important aspect would be capabilities around medical, the use of it for advanced agriculture capabilities, breakthroughs in energy, the energy field, and so on. But bringing in Google, OpenAI, Palantir, these are some of the ones that have, according to the order, it centralizes vast federal data sets and computing power under the Department of Energy and partners with these firms. These firms have not been, as we know, they've been more interested in the surveillance state side of the use of artificial intelligence and the predictive programming, or the predictive analysis of where they think crimes that people are going to commit and so forth. So that's where, unfortunately, it looks like this thing is going to go. Michael Kratsios, the White House science director, told Fox News, "It is the one place in the world where you can bring together biological data, national security data, data for material science, for chemistry, all in one place under one roof, where you can train models to accelerate scientific discovery." So now it appears that this probably is in line with what some have wondered, whether or not the current bubble within the AI system, whether this may be part of a bailout. Sam Altman referred to federal guarantees around chip makers earlier this month and was quick to clarify that, no, this isn't a bailout of this isn't federal intervention. We should just let market forces play their role. But anyway, I think that it's just all indicative. This AI bubble is indicative of the broader physical economic collapse, where we can't build the data centers because we don't have the skilled labor force. We don't have the energy capabilities because we've let all of our physical infrastructure fall apart over the last decades, a half century. This is the same thing that's going on even in the situation in Ukraine, where we claim that we're going to supply weapons, but of course we don't even have the physical production capabilities because the military-industrial complex companies pursue financial incentives or financial, looking for big money on that front, and are not putting in money to developing the workforce or securing the supply chains and so on. So that, that's part of it. But of course, the other part in Ukraine is that we don't even have we have these ongoing corruption issues, which have been highlighted by the various people in Ukraine that were involved in embezzling funds. Now, I just want to cite in this context, Tucker Carlson has taken aim at the Wall Street Journal for what he says the Murdoch-owned firm. He says in an X post on Monday that the Wall Street Journal has had a story for months detailing the personal corruption of Andrei Yermak, who is Zelensky's chief of staff and major confidant of Zelensky. Carlson said that Yermak has skimmed hundreds of millions in American tax dollars meant for Ukraine aid. The Journal's editor, the Wall Street Journal's editors can prove that, but they're not. Instead, they're protecting Yermak. He then went on to say that, Yermak, who of course was just appointed as the lead negotiator for Ukraine around the present dialogue of resolving the Ukraine crisis and the proposal put forward by the U.S. and Russia, or at least by the U.S. and certain input from Russia. He said that Yermak was leading efforts to scuttle the U.S. drafted plan. And he said that the Murdoch family, which owns the Wall Street Journal, wants to continue the war with Russia. Now, for readers of EIR who know of Murdoch's background, he as a protege of Lord Beaverbrook, who, took a lot of his propaganda methods from none other than Joseph Goebbels, back when the British establishment had a very cozy relationship with the Nazis for the original or the last World War led for British geopolitical interests against the then Soviet Union. Anyway, that shouldn't surprise you to find out that Carlson's saying that Murdoch wants to continue the war with Russia. But now, just to give a sense of some of the developments around those negotiations that, again, Carlson says Yermak is trying to scuttle. From the Kremlin, from Peskov, he said that we are interested in achieving our goals through political and diplomatic means. In this regard, our position has not changed at all. It has been repeatedly reaffirmed that by the president of our country, and we consistently adhere to this position. So that's Peskov yesterday saying that Russia is open to a political dialogue, but obviously they are not going to bend on their objectives, and if they have to achieve it through military means, they will. But there's, as again, that Peskov said, they're open for it to be done through political and diplomatic means. Now, returning to the British role in terms of the sabotage, where Keir Starmer is leading the coalition of the willing, from the SVR, which is the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, their CIA, if you will, they said that the British were undermining, or that the British were attempting to undermine Trump's peacemaking stance, and it appears that, according to the SVR, that they're going to revive the Russiagate operation through a campaign of discreditation. According to the SVR report, it says plans have been drawn up to revive the fake dossier prepared by former British intelligence officer Kay Steele, assuming Christopher Steele, accusing the U.S. president and his family, members of connections with Soviet and Russian intelligence services. So maybe we'll see a revival of the whole Russiagate allegations. And I think in that context, it should just be noted that none other than Jim Comey had his case thrown out, and I think that's a scandal. We know that Comey was very involved. We had the earlier release of from the DNI office of the documents, which basically said that Comey and Brennan were at the center of pushing the Russiagate, including the Steele dossier, but did not also. The head of the NSA, Mike Rogers, at the time said that there was no indication that the Russians had hacked the DNC database. And it was Comey and Brennan that, of course, put pressure on the larger array of the 17 intelligence agencies to come up with their assessment, the intelligence community assessment that Russia was indeed involved in Russiagate. Now, in that context, I think if they're going to revive the Russiagate dynamic, Harley indicated yesterday that the political turbulence, some of which is around Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's very unclear why Trump is throwing her under the bus, and we have a report from Punchbowl News that others in the Trump's Republican allies of the MAGA base, however you want to describe it, are equally feeling like they're thrown under the bus, and this is causing political turbulence, which, in this context, were Trump to move forward with this peace initiative, you can be sure that the deep state operatives in the Congress and so forth are going to revive attempts to get him out. So now, in all of this, I think our role has to be to mobilize the political forces to go put a stake in the heart of the beast, that is the British geopolitical beast. And we've revived our initiative around the global Glass-Steagall, together with LaRouche's 4 laws, which will take down the City of London and Wall Street crowd that is behind the so-called deep state. So I encourage we mobilize with us on that, but that will be crucial to creating the openings for the United States to join with the broader alliance that is represented by the global South, those committed to peace and the development and security architecture that Helga Zepp-LaRouche has called for. So I think it's important that Donald Trump has talked with Xi Jinping, but it's going to be up to us to create the political fight in the United States to bring down the British financial circles that are behind this deep state apparatus so that we can move forward to peace. So stay tuned to the LaRouche organization in terms of your updates, but definitely get involved on this mobilization around the Glass-Steagall initiative as part of the broader global Glass-Steagall, as well as the LaRouche's 4 laws. So again, stay tuned and mobilize with us.